Welcome to Sustainable Farm Insights, a sustainability programme brought to you by the Irish Farmers Journal and Glanbia, Ireland. The economic and environmental challenges facing Irish farmers is well known, and the aim of this programme is to help tackle these challenges and assist Irish farmers across all enterprises to adopt good management practices and new technologies as they drive to deliver economic and environmental sustainability on their farm.
My name is Andy Doyle and I'm Tillage Editor with the Irish Farmers Journal. I also look after the Sustainable Farm Insights programme, and that looks at various aspects of sustainability, and today we're looking at the issue of biodiversity. And biodiversity is really the plant and animal kingdom that live around us, that we sometimes can see and sometimes we can't see. And I'm joined in a conversation around that by Brian Nicholson, who is our host farmer, Keena, who is Countryside Management Specialist with Teagasc, and Thomas Ryan, who is the Sustainability Manager at Glanbia. We're here in Kilkenny, and I want to ask Brian about the type of farming that he's conducting here.
Yeah, I'm running a sheep flock here. There's just shy of 1,000 ewes to lamb down, plus 250 ewe lamb replacements. We'd also have a small bit of tillage and some forestry on the farm.
But as I look around me here, I can see lots of trees and lots of different things that we don't see in so much of the countryside now. You're obviously into how the farm looks, into having lots of vegetation, types of vegetation, lots of biodiversity, I'm guessing, around the place. You must have lots of birds and insects, etc. Are you doing something in particular to make that happen?
Yeah, I suppose there's kind of two parts to that. I mean, I like to maintain high hedgerows around the farm. This helps in the spring when the ewes are lambing. It's giving shelter for the lambs and the ewes if the weather's bad, but it also has the benefit for nature and biodiversity in providing food and shelter for them as well.
And you're a commercial farmer, and I think nobody need ever apologise for the fact that that's how we make our living in farming. But does that extra care for what's around you, the trees, the minding of the ground, the soil, the plants that we see beneath our feet, does it take a lot of extra time to do it over and above being a good farmer?
I don't think so. I mean, I find it's part and parcel of what I do on the farm here. If I want to leave the farm in a better stead for the next generation, I need to spend a little bit of effort looking after the things that are going to look after the farm going forward.
But you are doing some extra things, in fairness, because I think you told me that you have wild bird cover, that you've been trying to look after land that's close to a river that floods, etc. So you are doing some things to try and make things better. Yeah,
well, I think if we don't try and make things better, we're not farming correctly. We need to be trying to work with nature, because if we work with nature will help us down the road as well.
And doing what you're doing and having the diversity that you have around the place, is it making any major difference to how you farm, or the cost of farming, or the management that's required for the sheep, etc. here?
I suppose there are some extra costs there involved in some of the things, but I mean, some of that is offset with different eco schemes that you can sign up to, for the likes of gloss there and putting in bird cover. There's a balance there that your costs are kind of covered in partaking in the scheme, but I suppose the real benefit from that is there's a higher diversity of wildlife around the farm as well. So yeah, there's a cost, but there's benefits as well.
But you're, as well as doing those things, you're also into good rotational management to try and manage the sheep and decrease the cost of production. So with different types of vegetation, with good rotation management of grassland, how are you fixed for dosing and all of that type of stuff? Is the problem more or less?
Yeah, I suppose after the last number of years, I've been introducing extra grazing species and herbs into the grassland on the farm, and yeah, I have seen a reduction in the amount of times I need to dose. I suppose in conjunction with fecal egg counting, using best practice and advice. I've reduced the number of times that I need to dose animals, and with a reduction in dosing the animals, it also helps to increase the biodiversity within the soil as well, because you're not killing the small worms and that insects are going to feed off of.
Catherine, I want to drift over to you. Catherine, Keena, why is biodiversity important, and what is it to begin with?
Well, it's all the flora and fauna, and by flora we mean the trees and the flowering plants down to the mosses and lichens and the smaller plants, and then from the fauna we're talking about the birds and the mammals, but again down to the invertebrates, all the fish, the whole range. So, and then the next step is we need to talk about native Irish biodiversity. So what we're talking about there is what has been in this country since the last ice age, 10,000 years ago. So they're the species that are living together and are good for each other. The flowers flower at the right time, and the buds and the insects and the birds, they all come out at the right time because they have been here for forever. So the ones that we can be a problem are, the obvious one is the invasive alien species. There's about 100 of those. The Japanese knotweed would be the best known. They're obviously very bad for biodiversity. Then we have ornamental species that are not tuned into our wildlife. So, and then we have introduced species, and people might be surprised that some of the plants like the chestnut, the sycamore and the beech have only been here a couple of 100 years, so they haven't got their green card yet. So from a biodiversity point of view, we're interested in the other stuff. The other ones that kind of cause a wee bit of a problem because they're good for biodiversity, but we are not allowed to have them, are the noxious weeds. So we're talking there about the docks, the thistles and the ragwort.
And that's what we see above ground. Biodiversity will also extend to what's beneath our feet.
Absolutely.
And indeed, I've often heard it said, be it right or wrong, that there is much more biodiversity beneath our feet than what we can see around us and above us.
And I think out of sight, out of mind, we know less, and we probably appreciate it. I totally agree with you. Yeah. And then the reason it's important, there's kind of 4 reasons. The law protects some of our biodiversity. The schemes give us money for some to maintain it. But the next 2 reasons I think are coming more and more to the fore. The third reason is the marketing our green image. And I think, you know, we appreciate now that we have fantastic green image, but we must talk about it, promote it, and be careful to keep it. And the last one is one that farmers actually say to me so much, I've started to include it, is that it's nice to have on your farm and nice to pass on to the next generation.
And I think for somebody to realise that, they firstly have to see either what they have or what they haven't got. And so much of the time, we have so much that we don't see and appreciate.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm particularly interested in the common stuff that's on every farm. And, you know, on Rudder's Anna Visintach, we tend to like what's rare is wonderful. But to me, what's common, we need to say is wonderful on a farm, because every farm, every townland deserves to have its species of biodiversity. So, for example, here on this farm, the hedges are fantastic, the watercourse, the wild bird cover, just lovely stuff here. And one very interesting thing that I immediately love about this farm is the low average field size, or 4 hectares, about 10 acres of an average field size surrounded by permanent boundaries. So I'm not interested in the paddocks, I'm thinking about the owl and the bats and the bees and the butterflies. When they go out, they follow biodiverse boundaries. So average field size is an instant metric, and this farm is doing well on that.
When Brian was commenting, he commented that he was he likes to see his hedges growing high and tall, and he wants them to get up there, so to speak. Are there advantages in that, as well as just the shelter that Brian's getting for his sheep?
Yes, I mean, diversity is the key here too. It's lovely to see a range of different hedges on a farm, but what we don't want to see, I suppose, the bad practice is the really short back and sides. I still like to see some hedges that are topped because that keeps the dense base, and also then some of the escaped tree lines, some beautiful trees around here. So a mixture is always good, and maintain them in the best practice.
Thomas, as we look around from where we are here, like we're probably blessed, or Brian is blessed. There's just so much vegetation on the horizon. There's all kinds of things going on around us here. Is that common on farms around Ireland or in the Glanbia catchment, or do people even recognise it? I think is probably a good question as well.
Yeah, for sure, Andy. When I hear both Brian and Catherine talking, the words around the desire to leave their farm, and Brian's desire to leave a farm in a better condition, or hand it over in a better condition, environmentally in every way, to the next generation. I think that came through Catherine's as well, and we can see it here. And when we look at maybe work coming through our open source Future Farms programme, we can see biodiversity cover ranging up to 10%, so 10% biodiversity cover there. And I mean, equally when UCD have done similar studies, and Teagasc as well. And for many of us, it's about realising, as you say, the baseline that's in front of us. So when I look around and I see 40% of all farmers, like Brian, are in the Green Low Carbon Agri-Environment Scheme, the GLOS programme, okay? And this week, for example, organisations and companies such as Glanbia, we're not resting on our laurels. We're launching a new initiative called Operation Biodiversity. And the ambition there is to plant 100,000 trees and hedging plants in order to reduce carbon emissions, in order to improve biodiversity and add the value to what's already there, Andy, because as a company and as farmers, it is our licence to grow in terms of addressing this sustainability challenge and the biodiversity challenge that's in front of us.
And Thomas, why then is, well, I'm going to start with the bigger umbrella, sustainability, and under that umbrella we have biodiversity. Why is biodiversity important now to companies? Not just Glanbia, but many companies now talk about sustainability and biodiversity.
The desire for farmers and businesses to be able to say, let our growth in the future be about profit and about environment as well. That's really what sustainability is about. It's not exclusively about environment, it's about economic and it's about social as well. And marrying them three pillars together, that's really sustainability in practice. So retailers are reaching back to Glanbia and back to our suppliers, asking us not just to talk about biodiversity and sustainability, but to prove it, and also to be able to demonstrate improvement over time. And when we look at the initiatives such as Operation Biodiversity, when we look at maximum participation in the GLOS programme, for example, it's really encouraging to see the strong base, the strong platform that we have to build on, because the challenge is significant over the decades ahead.
Thomas, Catherine, Brian, thank you very much for your comments on that whole subject matter here. And in the Sustainable Farm Insights programme, our ultimate objective is to enhance the financial element of that sustainability. There will be things that we will have to do that may cost some money, but most of what lessons that can be learned and taken from it are about either saving on costs or increasing on output and using our cost base more effectively and more efficiently, with due respect for the environment and for all the species that live on it. Thomas, Catherine, Brian, thank you all very much. This video on the biodiversity element of sustainability is part of the Sustainable Farm Insights programme, which is a programme that's jointly operated by Glanbia and the Farmers Journal. In this particular video, we visited 3 farms and we saw commercial farming, which is the important thing. Commercial farming being operated in conjunction with a lot of natural biodiversity that exists around them. All farmers reported that they weren't doing anything much in particular. It was just part of their normal programme and they all felt the better for it. We heard one common comment coming from them all, which is the willingness and the wish to leave our land and our environment in better condition than we got it. And I just want to thank all of those 3 host farmers today, and also my guests for the conversation that we generated around that.